Dear believers of this young AC Milan, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to react to the part 2 of the interview from Milan News to Zvonimir Boban, ex-AC Milan player, ex-manager of AC Milan. If the first video was big, the second part of the interview is huge because he's going to talk about Scaroni, about Furlani. He's going to talk about the future of AC Milan. It's really great. Now, how are we going to do this? We're going to read the article. I'm going to play some comments and I'm going to overlay the words of Marco that I had a conversation with him a few days back. Marco, content creator for AC Milan, big on TikTok and on Instagram. Make sure to follow him. But of course, you know, the conversation was long, but eventually, like every single true AC Milan and old Rossonero, we always come to the end to talk about the same things: the management, the Conceição, the club, and so on. So I'm going to overlay these two things. Also, at the end of the video, we're going to do also some prediction for the match tomorrow, because tomorrow there is a chance that Milan is going to bring back home for the Coppa Italia since actually 2002-2003, when Milan also won the Champions League. At that time, the Coppa Italia was considered like a piece of rock. Nothing special. Today feels like it is the best things that this club can achieve. Where I'm going to read this article, once again, thank you so much to sempremilan.com and especially to Oliver Fischer, that the interview was out this morning like at 7:30 a.m. and already at 10 a.m. the script, it was already published, so I'm very easily now to just read the full interview. If you want to read the whole interview, again, I invite you to sempremilan.com. Sorry if I keep saying punto, but in Italian it is .com, so .com. You can learn a little bit of Italian with me, okay? Sempremilan.com, and there is only one thing to do now. Subscribe to the channel. Believe. Now, let's go. The questions. Any thoughts over Paolo Scaroni? A person who should never be in football. He has nothing to do with football. But you know, certain people have certain powers. And this is something that we constantly say on this channel. Scaroni is there because his power, his connection to the city of Milan, that Redbird is using to create the stadium. Because Scaroni is the president of Milan in theory, but remember that also Scaroni, it is the president of Redbird International. So he has both interests. He really asked about your resume. I told him to go to hell and I throw him out of the office. I say, what the are you doing in football? He said to me, why should I know what you've done in your life? You don't have idea, but I don't have idea what you did neither. When I say that this management, it's completely upside down, there is no boundaries in between the management. There are two groups, Elliot and Redbird, they are fighting each other. There is really no an order here.
I've said this many times. I think every part of this club is like questionable right now. Is the recruiting right? We don't have a sporting director still. Like our owners are sometimes there. Ibra will show up and call himself a lion, then he goes away. Jerry Cardinale is not there very often, right? It's just.
What do you think about Giorgio Furlani? Giorgio Furlani is a Milan fan. He's a true Milan fan, but in his own way. He has built differently. He was a mathematician, a businessman for a fun, and that's the way he see things. He's not able to distinguish well what Milan represented for us. But he supported the club all his life. Then he answered his bosses religiously, forgetting about passion, sport, football, everything that is belonging. All the other values that are Milan for all normal people who love Milan. He should also have asked himself question, understood what is good for Milan, and that Maldini and Massara were good for Milan. It was technical protection, not to mention that representation of the symbolism that Paolo carried himself.
I had a conversation at Il Gusto del Verdis a few days ago with the all Milan,
Yeah.
and there's another fan there too, and he didn't speak much English. I don't speak very much Italian, so we had to find a middle ground. But I understand one thing. He said, "Maldini out, big mistake," and I think again he wasn't perfect, but I just missed him so much because with all the question marks at this club right now. Maldini's care for this club was never questioned. You always knew that no matter what, no like depending on what, there's always questions of the budget and players that want to come here or not. He was going to try and make the best decision possible for the club. There was never
Absolutely.
any debate about that. Where you can't say that right now about Redbird because yeah, of course, on the surface, when you sell a player for 70 million, when you bought him for 20, that looks like a good decision. But in the long run, how much did it hurt our midfield? How much did it hurt our fan base? And you know what I mean? It's those deals. It is a business. Football is a business, but there's more to it than that. And I don't want to sound too romantic about it, but there's some players, there's some deals that should not be done. They're just too important to a club, which I think will pay off in the long run.
Now let's talk a little bit about the management, the sport director. And the sport director, if they get a sport director, he will be completely closed and stuck, practically reduced to a one-level technocracy with no ambition. I don't think he will have important role that can change history. Makes sense. With all the video that we made in the past talking about nobody wants to come to Milan because of that, because of exactly what Boban is saying. Who wants to come in this club now where they don't have a freedom to operate the way they want?
It's true. I think, and I was going to say too, is like, I think we're not at the point we could call up, the biggest names in football. We can't call the biggest managers. You can't call the biggest sporting directors because it's not even the project itself is right now. There's so many questions about, is this the right path forward? Are these players going to stay? Is Rafa going to stay? Or, like who's staying? Is the manager staying? Like who knows all this stuff? But we're definitely not at the point of being able to attract a top level people like that, because no matter what, like any sporting director that they will know, like if they are wanted in the world of football and they speak English, you can make a lot more money going to be a sporting director for Brighton than you can for AC Milan probably these days.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, and that's just like a reality of the Serie A in general right now, right? And that's just like a really sad fact. But yeah, I hate to keep saying this, but I don't know. I don't know who you should get. I don't know who would want to come. I don't know what manager.
No Paratici. No D'Amico, that is very stable in Atalanta. Tare, guess why Tare, guys? Because he doesn't have anything else to do. So of course coming to Milan is going to be the best things to do in his life. Of course. The sport director should have a role of representing the club, being in the middle between the team, the coach, and the club, protecting everyone and everything. That's what the technical director does. He has to see when the player is in crisis, when the coach doesn't talk, and has to go to the player. What do you think about Jerry Cardinale? I don't care the slightest. Do you ever hear Maldini commenting on what's happening in Milan? Yes, we talk. He suffers. He suffers a lot. It's hard. But obviously, he always remains very, very attached to Milan. He was born a true Milanista. I became one. Blah, blah, blah. Even though I love and respect Milan so much, the symbolism and flags are different. Paolo feels all this. He has given his whole life to Milan. Let's talk about Milan Bologna. If Milan season were to end with the best possible scenario, winning the Coppa Italia final, how would you judge it? There is now an accepted mediocrity on the part of many people, being happy for a Supercoppa that should never be played. Unfortunately, the season is quite dramatic. It's not up to the greatness of Milan. No one who really understands who gives value to AC Milan can be happy about this season.
Even if they win the Coppa Italia or not, I don't think he's the right guy to move this team forward. It's like you said too, where it's like And maybe we have something here with the 3-4-3, whatever. He's playing a different formation now. We're playing some better football these days, but he's still one of these managers that he brings a lot of unnecessary kind of drama to your team, and it's like
Yeah.
I'm never a fan of that too. And I think I could excuse that if the football was great, but it's not been good. You know what I mean? He took over. We were in 7th or 8th place, 9th, whatever it is now. We're still there, even though Lazio, Bologna, Juventus have all dropped points, and we have a mathematical chance now. Like, it's been so many games where, like you said, we watch the team. We don't know what's going on tactically, like what he's been telling the players. We see Rafael bench sometimes, but then Rafael comes on and he changes games. It's just everything is everywhere, and I get it. Like, you need to give some managers time, but yeah, I don't know. To me, it feels a little bit like the Eric Ten Hag situation at Manchester United, where he won the FA last year and they kept him. Where it's like, you can't use cups to like just wash over all this bad football we've watched for like 30 games. You know what I mean? Like, it's not uncommon to see a team make a cup run, but then not be able to do well in the league. It happens a lot, right? It's just all of a sudden they're good in one competition, but the league is, you play 38 games, so it's your real test of how good are we playing, and like, can we build consistency?
This is it, guys. This is the view of Boban over what is going on Milan on this channel, Old Rossoneri. We had a feeling already. Okay, we had a feeling of this situation that winning the Coppa Italia, winning these average trophies is becoming acceptable, which is, it's okay for the players, of course, because we respect them, we love them, but overall the project, it's completely a failure.
You need to have those things, you do, but like, this is still a football club, and we're playing football. You could do all the best marketing you want and whatever, but like, if someone turns on a Milan game and they don't enjoy watching Milan, you don't have a fan, right? Like, I don't care how nice the anniversary kit was this year. Like, yeah, I bought one, of course, but like, I'm already a fan, right? Like, how are you building this team? How are you building in more fans, right? And yeah, of course, things are important too, but you look at our neighbors, you look at what Inter are doing right now, and they're saying like, yeah, we might spend some money, a bit more money than we should in this case, and whatever, and all these players, but you know what? If they win the Champions League this season, they're going to take home 130 million, right? And I really believe, like, it's sad to say, but I don't think that Jerry really cares if Inter wins the Champions League. I don't think it's not going to affect his decision. It's not going to bother him, but if Maldini was still here, this would eat him alive, right? And he would be at work the next day saying, what do we need to do to win the Champions League as soon as possible, right? Doing it in the smartest way, but our ownership right now, I really believe at the very, very top, doesn't care.
At this point, after reading all this, I will be not surprised if Milan not only is going to keep all the management in this way and nobody's going to pay for the shit season that we had. If we're going to get a sport director, he's not going to be free to do whatever he wants. And whatever happened, happened.
I just want to say thank you very much for having me. I've been watching your stuff for quite a long time. Every time a match finishes, I go down my list. You know what I mean? I watch the Milan pod with Martino over there, and I watch Kush.
Grande Martino.
I watch you, and I get all the perspectives, right? So I appreciate the time, and yeah, like you said, my social media. I don't know if you'll link down below, but it's me, Marco G, on everything: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. So I'll see you there, and thank you. I appreciate the time.
Forza Milan sempre. Hopefully we're going to win the Coppa Italia. I'll see you tomorrow.